The clearer I got, the more courageous I was to put a stake in the ground and say, this is who I serve, the bigger my business got.
If you're a jewelry maker who is trying to find the courage to quit your corporate job and go all in on your jewelry business and do this entrepreneur thing, you are going to love this interview today. Hey there, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy. And for the past 12 years, I've helped over 8,500 different jewelry business owners launch, grow, and scale successful multiple six, and seven-figure companies using my methodology called the desired brand effect. And I have a very special author on the show today. Her name is Amy Porterfield. She's been a friend of mine for years. And I really, really admire this woman so much because years and years ago, she quit a very lucrative job working for Tony Robbins to go out all in on her passion and start teaching people how to create a runway to give their 2 weeks notice so that they can quit their full-time job. Plus she wrote a book about it. It's awesome. So I interview Amy today. You're gonna love this interview. I think it's going to inspire you and also give you some really actionable tips on how you can prepare to give your 2 weeks notice if that is something that you so wish to do. All right, before we dive into the episode today, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. And if you like this video, make sure that you like it and share your favorite takeaway in the comments after it's over. Besides being an ex-corporate girl and a New York Times best-selling author for her book, 2 Weeks Notice, Amy Porterfield is someone who loves to inspire and help people become more autonomous, independent, and successful by building their own businesses and careers. She's the founder of a multi-million-dollar company and today works with startups to help them grow and leverage their knowledge to teach business online. This book is so helpful. So let's dive into this episode today. I think that you are going to love it with Amy Porterfield. I am so excited to have my friend Amy Porterfield on the show today to talk about her brand new book, 2 weeks Notice. Well, it's 6 months old now, almost, right?
Right, but it still feels brand new. So
it's awesome.
All good.
Amy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to chat with you. We've known each other for so long.
I know.
It's just fun to see what you're up to and us to watch each other kind of grow in our businesses.
I know, it's really exciting. So I remember when you first left your corporate job, you were teaching people how to do Facebook ads. And I'd already met you. You tried to set me up with someone in a bar once. That's another story.
Good thing it didn't work because now you've got this cutie boyfriend.
I know. Good thing it didn't work. And like the cool thing about it is that like I've got to watch your journey because like back then you were teaching Facebook ads or something like that. I bought the course because we were thinking about maybe running Facebook ads for our business. And I remember getting a message from you specifically being like, oh my gosh, Tracy, it's so great to see your name on this list. And I'm like, isn't Amy like super big already? Like how she even knows who signs up for her courses, which is so fun.
Too funny.
Yeah. So I want to hear
a lifetime ago.
I know that was so long ago and you're doing so many amazing things now. So I'm excited to dig into the book. I want to hear a little bit more or share with our readers a little bit more about your journey into entrepreneurship, because there was a time when you had a corporate job and you were thinking about quitting. Like, what was that process like? Like, how did you get the courage to do it? All the things.
So I always say I am an ex-corporate girl turned accidental entrepreneur. I never really had high hopes to be my own boss or be an entrepreneur. But when I was in my very last corporate job, it was with Tony Robbins and I was the director of content development. And I got to travel the world and work on the content that Tony does on stage, like Unleash the Power Within or Date with Destiny. If you know Tony, you know those events. And I got to work on those events and it was incredible. But here's what happened. One day, Tony in the San Diego offices where I was brought in a bunch of online business owners and they were all men. And he was basically using it as a focus group because we were getting more into the online space selling his courses. And so I was brought in to take notes, humbly enough. I sat at a side table and I took notes around what these guys were talking about. And one by one, they went around and they talked about their lifestyles and what they created and how much money they were making and how they were doing that online. And for the first time in my life, I thought, I don't know what they're doing, but I want the freedom that they're talking about. Like the first time ever, I had a desire for freedom beyond a 9-to-5 job. So I listened, probably took the worst notes of my life that day. And I thought, again, I don't know what they're doing, but I'm going to figure it out. So from that point forward, I decided I want to be my own boss. Now, it was like 6 months from that date that I kind of just marinated on the idea, like,
Yeah.
what would I possibly do? I remember looking at one of my coworkers, and she's a writer. And I said, you're a writer. You could go out on your own, and you could write for people or write for your own business. I have no skills that would translate into building a business online and being my own boss. Now, fast forward to today, I know that wasn't true, but I really did feel limited in the skills that would translate into my
Yeah.
own business. So it took me about 6 months to get the courage to say, I really want to leave. And from that point forward, I created a runway of how to leave my 9 to 5 job with integrity and start something that could be profitable right out of the gate, because I did not have a bunch of money saved or anything like that. And so in the book, I outline the runway that I used and what I encourage my students to use as well. Things like choosing your exit date. You gotta have a date, either 3, 6, 9, or 12 months from now. So I decided 6 months from that moment. So I wrote down the date. It was in June of 2009. I put the date on the Post-it note, put it on a mirror where I could see it every single day. And I would ask myself, what do I need to do today to move me closer to that date? And I would do random things like, let me give you one example. You actually might remember her. Do you remember Laura Roeder?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, yeah,
She
she's
did the
amazing.
first B school with Marie.
Exactly. And she's
Yeah.
still in the industry, but she's in software now. So we don't see her as much in the internet marketing world kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I asked her if I could pay her to give me an hour of her time and talk about her business. Like, I wanted to know how she created her courses, how she built her business. And I said, I know you don't offer this, but would you let me pay you? And she said yes. So while I was still at Tony Robbins at my lunch hour, I got underneath my desk because I was afraid someone would hear me. And I'm like whispering on a landline, because I don't even know if at the time if I was even using a cell phone. So I got underneath my desk, whispering on a landline, saying like, can you tell me about your business? And she was so incredibly generous. But that was like one thing I did to move me closer to figuring out how I was going to create my own business. I also did things like look at my finances and ask myself, do I need to save a little money before I actually go out on my own? But you don't need to save tons and tons of money.
No.
So we don't need to get crazy with that. But I wanted a little nest egg. So I started to make some sacrifices to save some money. And then another thing is that I started a side hustle. So I started consulting and doing social media for small businesses, just as a way to get my feet wet before I went out on my own completely. And I always say, just come up with a starter idea, because today I do not do anything like teaching social media or doing social media for small businesses. 14 years later, my business is very different, but I needed to get something started. So by writing down your date and looking at your finances and maybe starting a side hustle. And the fourth thing is to tell a few people about your goals and your dreams. But notice I said a few people. Not everyone can hold space for you saying, I want to quit a 9 to 5 job and start my own business, because most people will tell you all the reasons you shouldn't do it, but they've never done it. So you got to be very careful who you get advice from. So I just told 3 people that I know would just cheer me on: my mom, my husband, and my best friend. And those are the only people I told till right before I left.
I love that. And you hit on so many things that I want to like circle back to. But I remember when I worked at Nordstrom for a very long time before I started my first jewelry business. And I also had a side hustle. And one of the things that made me feel secure enough to actually quit the job was just having like, not a ton of money, but just like a little bit of money saved up so that I wasn't like living on, like running on empty or something like that. And having that side hustle to kind of transition into getting the full-time thing going, it was so, so helpful in creating that runway. I probably, like, I'm a little bit different than you. I probably should have done this, but I didn't. I probably should have had the sticky note with the date, because I felt like I prolonged that like quit date for so long. It was like a hard thing. But then finally, I think I turned like 28. I was like, I got to do this now or else I'm not going to do it. But
yes,
it was the best. So this brings me to my next question. You know, a lot of people, and I have a very strong opinion on this, but a lot of people think that entrepreneurship or going out on your own, and you kind of reference this, like, be wary of who you tell that you want to do this, right? They think it's risky. And I believe that they think it's risky because they're coming through their own lens. Now, what's your take on that? And What would you tell people who are kind of afraid to either trust themselves or take that leap?
I think it's so normal to be afraid to leave behind
Mm,
a 9 to 5 job with a regular paycheck and health insurance to go into the unknown. Of course, that's scary. But what I tell my students is that we've got to rely on courage before confidence, because
mhm,
a lot of people are saying, I'm not confident enough to do it. And I always say,
mm,
confidence comes with experience, and you've never done this before. So you have no track record that this is going to work. So we cannot wait for confidence. It is never coming in this area until you actually do it and start getting traction. So we're going to rely on courage, which is that leap of faith. Now, to get enough courage to do something like this, we got to go back to that runway I talked about. And one of the things that to get ready to leave a job is you got to get clear on why you want to leave. It's your why. And the why has to be selfish. It has to light you up. It has to be something that gets you out of bed in the morning. And also, when your worries knock you down, and they will, your why has to be strong enough to pick you back up. Now, mine was simple. I did not want a boss. As much as it was cool to work for Tony Robbins, I didn't want to be told what to do, when to do it, or how to do it anymore. And I also wanted to bust through that glass ceiling. I knew I had hit a max there. And so it was very clear to me. I wanted freedom and I wanted more money. And that's what I wanted. Now, 14 years later, to get me out of bed in the morning, it's not freedom and more money. I already have that. And I'm so fortunate. Now it's, I want to serve the people that I know I can help.
mm,
I want to help more people experience freedom and more revenue in their businesses and all of that. But in the beginning, I didn't have any students. It had to be selfish about me so it would move me forward. And so I would tell them, number one, again, be careful who you tell and take advice from. Most people are scared because they would never, ever do something like this. And I would also tell them that I believe the worst day as an entrepreneur, and in my book, I talk about some really rough times I went through.
mm.
The worst days of an entrepreneur are still better than the best day in my 9 to 5 job because I was free. I am free. And there's a lot to bank on that.
Mm.
And so, as hard as it could be to make the transition, it's so worth it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like I was lucky because I came from an entrepreneurial family. Like
Ooh,
pretty much everyone in my family, everyone's like, I can't work for someone else. I'm gonna figure out
that's
how to work for
cool.
myself. So, I have a huge family. So some of my siblings do have jobs, but they're more like entrepreneurial roles inside of those companies. And then the rest of us are all either small business owners, consultants, or entrepreneurs. And
I love that.
the thing that the thing that I feel really like lucky for is being able to have role models of people who were successful and also not successful, because I think it's good to see the flip side of it in a way so that you know what kind of to avoid or what to look out for. But also, there's nothing that can really replace having the freedom to work for yourself, which I think is amazing, which requires motivation and excitement. And so I love that you said, dial in your why. Like, why do you want to do this? Like, what is it going to provide for you? And I think for a lot of people in our community, we have a lot of single moms or just moms who want to pick their kids up from school. And it's hard when they have to, when they're leaving school at 5, they can't really do all the things that they want to do and be a mom. Where I think the freedom to start your own business and create your art and put that out into the world can offer so much more than just like a steady paycheck, right?
Yes, exactly. There's just so much more that your life can offer you when you are calling the shots and when you are your own boss. And it's more than just like you could take off when you want or you can make even a lot of money. There's something pretty powerful to know that you are
Mm.
designing your life exactly how you want it to
Oh, it's
be.
the best.
Right? When people say like design your perfect day. Well, when you're in a 9 to 5 job, it's almost impossible. You're not your own
Yeah.
boss, so you're not doing that. In entrepreneurship, you absolutely can.
Well, I feel like I have a lot of friends in corporate who feel like they can never get anything done because the corporate life is all about meetings. And like
Yes.
you're in meetings all the time and like there's no time to get stuff done. So like how do you even do that? So I
Exactly.
want to ask you a different question. Do you think that everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur? Like everyone should consider it or not?
No, I don't think everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur. And when I say cut out, maybe it's like has that desire or
Mhm.
that huge will to make it work no matter what. And I'll give you an example. My sister, she is a first grade teacher and she's 2 years older than me and bossy as all get out. And she loves to tell me what to do. And she has been a teacher since she got her
Mhm.
master's many, many, many years ago. And she looks at my life and would never want it. She thinks it's a little too crazy, a little too fast, a little too big for what she
Mhm.
would ever want. And she makes less money than me, lives in a smaller home than me, actually still in the town where we grew up. And she's insanely happy with two beautiful kids and a wonderful
Yep.
husband. So I look at her life and I think not everyone has to be an entrepreneur to be happy. I am sure of that. However, if you have it on your heart, you have
Mhm.
to at least explore it. It's not on her heart and it never will be. But for a lot of people, especially people listening to your podcast, if they're not there yet, there's a whisper inside them that says,
Mhm.
I gotta see if I made for this. And that cannot be ignored.
This is so, so true. Um, and yeah, I couldn't have said it better, which I don't think that everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur. And it's good to have that awareness. And if you're feeling that drive and that passion and the desire, like that's the thing that you need to listen to. I think if you just, because like I work with a lot of jewelry designers or retailers or people in like a product-based industry, I think there's a difference between like wanting to just make something with your hands as a hobby and like making a little bit of money on Etsy on the side versus like going all in and having a business. And that, if you can determine the difference between those things and be honest with yourself about it, I think that a lot of pain and suffering about should I do this or not will be solved right away,
Yes,
which is
so
amazing.
true. And there's nothing wrong with having it be a hobby and making a little money on the side if that's all you want to do. Because let's be honest, being an entrepreneur, it is hard. Like, especially the first few years of getting things up and running, you kind of look in the mirror and be like, how bad do I want this? And I think for you and I, we wanted it bad. And so we were willing to go through that.
I still think sometimes to myself, like, what am I doing here?
Oh, absolutely. I had kind of a hard week last week, and I was joking with someone. I'm like, start a business, they said. It's going to be fun, they said. It was not fun last week. I had to let go of someone,
Oh
I
my
had
God.
to change direction on a big
Yeah.
project. It was grueling. But again, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. It's so funny. This morning, my dog, Roxy, who's like laying right next to me, having a little nap over here. I'm like, okay, I got to get ready. I got to do all these things. I got to get this stuff done before my interview. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go for the walk. She wouldn't get out. I'm like, you are ruining my day. Like, I've got to be on this schedule. And it's kind of, and it's hard. And then literally, I had a meltdown this morning because I'm like, I have so much to do. Like, how am I going to get it done? And I had to like do all this stuff, like all my exercises to like regulate myself enough to be like calm to be here, to be like, okay, everything's going to be okay. You're just anxious at the moment. You're going to be fine. Like, it's all
It's
working.
so true. When that happens to me a lot, and there's two things I do. Number one, I always tell myself, I am not curing cancer. If something doesn't get done, it's not going, I think I do important work, but we're not going to hurt anybody physically, mentally, or anything. So, like, we're okay. And then the second thing is that sometimes I think all this has to get done right away. And I ask myself, like, what would happen if I slow down just
Mhm.
a little bit? And at first I'm like, no way. And then I look at it and I think, I could move these things
Yeah.
around and make it work. But I still have my moments that I feel very, very overwhelmed.
So there's something that I just kind of want to touch base on that. There's something in the book that you talk about that I've heard you talk about for years that I call something different that I've incorporated into my schedule. And I call it creative days or creative time. And you call it tiger time.
Tiger time. Yeah.
And, we were talking about the meetings and being stacked and feel like context switching all day and that being distracting and feeling like you're not really getting anything done because you're just busy instead of productive. For people who feel like they're thinking about starting a business or they already have a business, because I think this will be really helpful for people who are struggling with productivity. What is your methodology or your process for getting more into flow and protecting your schedule so that you can get more done?
Oh, I love this
Because you're
question.
so busy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been, yes, and it's been a little bit crazier since the book came out. So I really have to make sure I manage my mindset around this. So
Mhm.
two things. Number one, you kind of alluded to this where you said, you had all these things that you need to get done. You had to kind of go through the
Mhm.
tools or the techniques that you use to kind of manage your mindset and get
Yep.
organized. Managing your mindset to me is so much of entrepreneurship. Tony Robbins will say it's
Mhm.
80% of your success
Yeah.
to manage your mind. So I flood myself with podcasts and books and masterminds just to make sure that my head is in the game no matter what. Like I have a goal to get to 20 million in my business, and to go from 15 million to 20 million. It's not many
Mhm.
new strategies, but it is a different kind of
Yeah.
mindset that I'm going to have to do. So I really do believe you have to work on your mindset every single day as an entrepreneur. This is going to sound extreme, but it really helps me. And I deal with anxiety and depression, so I have to be careful with that.
Yes.
I have a wellness coach, a
Mhm.
business coach, and a therapist. Like I have
Sound like
all
me.
three. Yeah. Okay, good. So you're not going to judge me. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I need that kind of support. So that's one thing. And of course, the more money I make, the more I can afford those kind of things. But I would
Yeah.
seek out free resources for a very long time till I could afford the support I wanted. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is we get really, really clear on our team about our quarterly and our yearly goals. We take
Mhm.
those very seriously. And those that are listening, if you're a one woman or a one man show, you can still do this on your own where you're very clear. These are, let's say, the 3 to 5 things we're working toward this quarter and nothing
Yep.
else. Like we've got to take things off the calendar that don't fit within these
Yep.
goals. And each of my quarterly goals leads to what I want to do at the end of the year, by the end of the year.
Yep.
So we live and die by our goals, which then I always know if I'm working on the right thing or not.
Okay, so when you're setting goals, obviously there's probably a money goal, but how do you determine what the other goals are?
Yeah. So beyond the revenue and profit goal, we look at our different products. So I've got 3 main products, and we'll put goals around not only revenue, but leads is another one. So
Yep.
if we can get the leads, we know we can get the revenue. And then also we do goals individually for departments because
Yeah.
not everybody is driving revenue. So for instance, one of my operations is to look into more DEI opportunities and ways we can bring
Mhm.
people into the company. So that's her goal for this quarter.
Yep.
And so each of my employees actually have individual goals
Yeah.
that relate to their actual position, and that has been a game changer for us as well.
That's awesome. And I want to just circle back to the thing about like Team Amy because uh, I'm laughing like I maybe I call them something different, but it's like I got my executive coach, I have my theta healer, I have my energy healer, I have like all
It's
the
so
healers.
important.
So
Yes.
important. And I laugh because I have a call with my executive coach and my energy coach on Friday. I'm like, I can't do both of you on one day. This is just like too much healing for one day.
That's a lot. That would be a lot for sure. Yeah, I've got to spread them out.
I'm laughing so hard. Anyway, it's all good. So, this is a question that I really wanted to ask you about ideal customers, because this is one thing that my community really struggles with because they're like, I don't want to exclude people. And I feel like I've sold to someone who's 65 and then also someone who's 25. So, we know as business owners and entrepreneurs who've been doing this for a while that getting really clear on like a customer avatar and giving that person a name and a lifestyle and all those things is really important. What would you say to someone who's really struggling to identify that and get clear on what theirs is for them? How can they let go of maybe the fear of like pigeonholing themselves?
I think that fear is so normal. I remember when I first started in my business, I was absolutely for anyone who wanted to learn Facebook. So I taught
Yeah.
Facebook ads and Facebook marketing in the beginning, and anyone who wanted to learn it, I was your girl. And then what happened was people started asking me questions that I did not know the answers to, such as, Amy, how do I get more people into my brick and mortar
Yeah.
t-shirt shop? And how do I sell more t-shirts off the shelves? I have never, ever
Yeah.
done that. And I don't like to give advice in that I haven't had experience with. And so I realized, wait a second, this is causing me a lot of angst. I don't enjoy teaching these people because I know I can't
Hmm.
add immense value. So I'm not enjoying this and I'm not giving them great information. So then I put a stake in the ground and I said, I help people who want to create information products, courses, memberships, masterminds, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. and they want to teach online. And so when I put that stake in the ground, it was like a flood of new customers because they knew who I was for. They knew, oh, she's my girl. She's doing exactly what I need to know. And so it was like laser focused in a very noisy online world.
Mhm.
But here's what I want to say to the people that are very scared about leaving other people out or being too specific. Those that need you will find you. So I
Yeah.
absolutely have people in my audience who are selling physical products. They know that's not my specialty, but they love how I teach and they like my strategies. I have people that are younger because I usually have 40, 50, 60-year olds in my audience. I have people in their 20s and
Yeah.
30s all day long. They find me because something about my message resonates with them and I
Mhm.
love it. So I promise you, you are not going to exclude people that absolutely need you. They will find you and they will find the message within whatever you're sharing online that resonates with them. But you will absolutely get lost in the noise online if you do not get more specific. It's too noisy and it's too big out there.
Well, yeah, that's such great advice. And I just want to mention something about you because I've been following you like as a friend and just someone who really admires what you've been doing for all these years. I remember one time I reached out to you on Facebook. I'm like, Amy, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I've been listening to your podcast and it's so good. And like all this stuff. And I noticed there was a shift like a couple years ago and you kind of combined like everything that you do because you were kind of focused more on like teaching people how to use webinars to sell things and or sell their programs and stuff like that. And I feel like the more you got dialed in and clear, the bigger your business
Yes.
got.
I mean, no doubt about it. The clearer I got, the more courageous I was to put a stake in the ground and say, this is who I serve, the bigger my business got. You know, there's that saying, the riches are in the niches. And I
Yeah.
really do believe it because it's easier to formulate a message. It's easier to write an
Yeah.
email. It's easier to put together a social media post when you know exactly who you are talking to.
It's yeah, so much better. All the things. I think my final question, or maybe it's not the final question, let's see what happens to it. Like what final pieces of advice would you give to someone who is thinking about quitting their job, who is on the fence right now? Like, what would you say to them to start doing now?
Okay, so the first thing I'd say is let's get really clear on that why. Like, why do you
Yeah.
want this? What will this do for you? Take a few moments and do some journaling, even if you don't like it, it makes a big difference. Where paint the picture of what your life could
Mhm.
look like. Let's future pace ourselves so we can get excited about our opportunities that are in front of us. So, do that mental work about painting the picture of your new future and why you want it so bad. And then from there, I do believe starting a side hustle gives us courage. That side hustle
Mhm.
doesn't need to replace your salary
No.
before you leave your 9 to 5 job, but even just bringing in $1,000 extra a month goes a
Mhm.
long way for most of us, especially when you're at a 9 to 5 job. And so think about starting a side hustle. What might it look like? What might you do? And just remember that side hustle is a starter idea. It is not your end
Yep.
all be all. And believe me, your business will dramatically change over the years when you get more insight. Marie Forleo has this great saying that action creates clarity. And I
Yeah, it
stand by that
does.
100%. So we just need to get into action and it will lead you to your next place of wherever you need to land.
Yeah, I love that too. I feel like the biggest antidote to being afraid or fear is to just do take one step forward. Keep moving.
Yes.
Keep taking those actions. It's so helpful. So anytime
Yes.
I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, what's one thing I can do now to kind of get out of that funk, which is great. Okay,
Yes.
so your book 2 weeks notice is now available, or it has been available for a while. I've been trying to get you
Yeah.
on here, so I'm so excited to share this with people. Find the courage to quit your job, make more money, work where you want, and change the world. Where can people find it?
You can get it anywhere where books are sold online or in bookstores, but also I've got bonuses. So 2weeksnoticebook.com. So 2weeksnoticebook.com, you can go there and get all your bonuses when you purchase the book. But I just appreciate you having me on. I know that we talked about doing this for so long. You were so patient with me. Things got a little crazy, but the fact that you had me on to talk about my book means the world to me. And I just love that we've been friends for
I
so long.
know.
So it makes it extra special.
Oh, I want to ask you one more question. Like, how are you enjoying Nashville?
I am loving it. So I moved from California to Nashville 2 years ago, 2.5 actually now.
Mhm.
The first year, I hated it. I'm a Southern California girl, born and
Yeah, me
raised.
too.
So like, okay, so you can understand. And when it was 30 degrees, I'm like,
Yeah.
I am going to die in this weather. It got really cold the winter I moved here, and I didn't know anyone, and I just thought this is a bad idea. But
Mm,
everyone said, give it a year, give it a year. And
yeah.
1 year in, I realized Nashville has the nicest people ever. There's more room to expand and have
Yeah.
land and all of that. And it's been really fun. And also it's great for business taxes. It's not the reason I
Oh,
moved here, but
great. That's
dang,
awesome.
way better than California.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I moved to Arizona around the same time from New York City for
Oh,
Jason. And the adjustment was so hard for me.
that's a big adjustment. New York to
I know.
Arizona. That had to have been a shell shock.
So when you were sharing all your journey on your podcast, I was like, oh, I feel this so bad right now. And it's been like a big thing to like try to get to a place where I feel like, okay, starting to make friends, like meeting people, developing community, because you have your people when you live somewhere. It's
Yes,
different. It's all
it
good.
is. Are you
Well,
getting used to the really hot weather in the
oh,
summer?
it's so hot, but this year has been amazing, Amy. It
Oh,
was
good.
like, okay, so I don't really like 30 degrees because I could do without like super cold New York winters, but
Yes.
it was like 40, 50 degrees all winter here.
Oh,
And then all spring, it's been like 75.
oh,
Yesterday, I woke up, it was 75 degrees in the morning before it got really hot. 75 here in Arizona feels like 65 in California.
I bet. Yes.
So it's been actually an amazing year. I'm like, if it continues like this, I think everyone might move to Arizona.
Right?
They'll
Don't tell
just leave
anyone.
during the summer when it's like super, super hot. But
Exactly.
anyway, great to talk to you, Amy. It's so great to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you, friend. Take care.
Thanks so much for watching the show today. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you pick up Amy's brand new book, 2 Weeks Notice. It's available everywhere books are sold. And while you're at it, you might as well pick up The Desire Brand Effect, How to Stand Out in a Saturated Market with a Timeless Jewelry Brand. Both books are excellent for jewelry business owners who are trying to scale and grow their businesses. And if that's you, I'm super excited for you. If you haven't done so yet and you enjoyed this video, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and put the notification bell on so that you see when we release new videos. Ciao for now.